Welcome to Queers and Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Amy Spalding. Amy Spalding is the author of several novels, including the best-selling For Her Consideration, We Used to Be Friends, and The Summer of Jordi Perez, and The Best Burger in Los Angeles, which was named a Best Book of 2018 by NPR, the Boston Globe, Kirkus Reviews, and more. She is a recipient of the 2023 Human Rights Campaign Visibility Award for the authentic, funny, and diverse representation of the LGBTQ+ community in her books. Amy grew up in St. Louis and now lives in Los Angeles. She has a BA in Advertising and Marketing Communications, an MA in Media Studies, and studied long-form improv at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. Welcome to the podcast, Amy.
I'm so long you were given, I feel like the longest version of my bio that exists, and you just had to keep saying things about me.
Well, that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about you. So have no fear. That was good. As long as it comes in under 2 minutes, I'm happy.
You know, fair. I don't know about the exact appropriate faces to make while someone's reading all the facts of your life. You know, you're just like, it's true. That's true. Yep. That is accurate. If you pulled my mom said I really like how they wrote that about you. And I said, Mom, I wrote that about me.
Yeah, it's just the third person. Nobody cares enough about what I do to write it for me. I have to do it.
She's like, they really got everything. I'm like, no, that was me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is the purpose of that thing. Although I will say a lot of people, I think, struggle with that introduction, you know, that version of like, how do I introduce myself in a few sentences to people?
I will also say sometimes I've moderated panels and like 3 people did like a serious bio and one's like, she writes books and lives with a poodle and loves chocolate. And I'm like, I will reach out sometimes and say like, hey, do you have just everyone else's is like 5 paragraphs and list awards and schooling and yours is like silly. Because also one time someone did that to me, like early on, I didn't have many things to list. And I just had a whole thing about like my cats and drinking Diet Coke. And then the moderator just read all these like brilliant, beautiful bios. And then she's like, Amy lives in LA, loves Diet Coke. I'm like, ma'am, you could have, come on.
Yeah. But see, I feel like that is an organizational / moderator issue, because if there isn't some parity in the introductions, you gotta talk about it. You gotta be like, hey, can you beef yours up? Do you want to include more of your resume? Or my preference, go to the person who's written 5 paragraphs about their entire life and say, what are the most important 4 sentences in this?
Yes, there is
because
that too.
We do not want to spend half of the panel just introducing everybody.
Yeah. Everyone's like, are we going to read for 7 minutes each? I'm like, no, the panel's 40 minutes long. We're not. We're just going to chitter chatter and it's going to be great.
Well, and that's where I really do time it. And it's like, if it goes over a minute, fine. If we hit 2, So, okay, well, now that we've kvetched already.
We've really attacked people who have countless accolades. You know what? They had it coming.
Yes. Or I think like I've done it with a lot. I mean, I shortened yours. I don't know if you caught that, but like I clipped some things out just because like to get to the stuff that makes the most sense to say out loud.
Sure.
Which is sometimes different when you're reading it. But like, yeah, send me a long thing. I'll shorten it to something that makes sense for a podcast. That's fine. So I guess it's really more a lesson for like moderators. Like, feel free to make it your own, to have a good experience. That's your job, is to have a good experience for the listener or the audience.
I actually love talking about moderating. So I'm like, I could chat about moderating the whole time. That's not what we're going to talk about, but like, I love it. I love moderating. I have a lot of really strong opinions on why it works and when it doesn't. Yeah. Nope. I was like, let's get into it. No, that's literally not what we're here to do, but I could at any moment.
Maybe later. No. We'll see if it comes up again. But I suppose we should talk about your work as a writer, since you're coming as an attending author to Queers and Quills. Sure. So what was your journey to becoming an author?
I am one of those people who wanted to be a writer my entire life, basically. Like, since I knew there were writers, that's what I wanted to be. You know, I loved reading. I loved watching television. You know, I loved storytelling. I love characters. And so I think as soon as I put it together in my very young head that there were people who wrote those books and like that was their job, that is what I wanted to be. So I feel immensely fortunate that that is what actually happened. I mean, I feel fortunate. I also feel, I guess, fortunate that that stayed a goal because, you know, there's other things you want to do as a kid that it's okay that it doesn't work out, you know?
Yeah.
Like I knew
Well,
a woman who wanted to become a horse, and I think she's okay that she didn't.
I hope so. Although, with what plastic surgery that's available to us now, you never know.
You never know. Horse
You
could be
never
coming.
know. Yeah. Although it is such a balance between like encouraging young people to follow their dreams and also thinking about practicality and encouraging them to explore other parts of themselves because they may discover new dreams.
Yeah, because I think I think there's something really special about knowing books affected me in a certain way as a young person, and that they affect me that way now as a middle-aged person. But not just as a reader, that now it's something I'm also doing, that now I'm putting my own stories and characters out there in the world. There's something really special about that. But it's also okay if there's a thing you wanted to do when you were like 7 that now you're like, I don't like agree. I think exploring and dedicating yourself to something is great, but also, you know, there's stuff I never thought I'd be interested in doing that I've done, and it's been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know my journey is one that, like, if I told my high school self that this is what I'm doing now for a living, I'd be shocked because I was, through no one's fault, really discouraged from pursuing acting because it was like, well, I don't have a look.
Yeah.
And as I always like to say, like, I was like the second most talented guy in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And like that person does not go on to have a full-time acting career. And through the twists and turns of life, I took many detours. Like I eventually found my way to doing this work, which is a form of acting, which I never would have thought was in my future. So if it's meant to be, you might find your way back to it. Those early dreams that even when you're young, you might talk yourself out of because you think it's impractical.
Yep. Also, I'm also from the middle of the country, as you know, because you're in my bio, St. Louis. I think there's a real practicality in people and places we're from. I don't want to say everyone, but I was certainly encouraged, like, do whatever you want as long as you have a full-time job with, you know, health insurance and benefits, etc. And that gets in there. And by the way,
when we were kids, that was an expectation you could think. Yeah. Remember when every job came with those? Wild times.
Oh my God, right? I mean, I did grow up to also have a full-time job with health insurance, which is good. But I am sometimes curious, like, what if the message I'd been getting from all the adults around me was just like, yeah, go be a writer, explore that, you know?
And here are the practical ways you can make that happen. Like, it may not be, you get to be a novelist right out the gate, but like, look at these other ways you can use your writing to make money or to get your foot in the door in a certain capacity in a job that does give you health insurance, but gives you plenty of time to do your writing. Like, that's another thing, a conversation I try to have with young people all the time is like, think about what you can do that doesn't occupy your entire life. Because if your ultimate goal is to reach full-time work as an artist, you're going to have to go through the period of whether it's waiting tables or office work, but don't get a job where it suddenly becomes your whole life, or you get to the end of that day and you have no energy left for the creative thing you want to do. It's totally okay to have a job.
I may always have another job. I live in Los Angeles. It's expensive. I like to buy things. Capitalism's bad, and also I like to buy things. Whatever. I'm comfortable living at this paradox, but you know, when I get done with my job, most days I can go home at a reasonable hour. I can put my mind back on my book or the book I'm promoting, the book I'm pitching, whatever needs to be the focus. I generally can do that. And I've had jobs where that's not the case. The time is more, the mental load you're carrying is more.
Right.
And what I've learned is like, I can't be also a full-time writer if I do that. But if you find the right one that has the time and the mental balance, I find it not, I don't want to say easy to balance both, but it's super doable.
And I think it's a conversation about what does achievement mean to you?
Yes.
Because I know that the trap I fell into early on was that I felt like I had to have a career that defined me. Like that if somebody asked me, what do you do? I had to be able to talk about my job in such a way that it was like, this is my life, it's who I am, and like I'm in sales, or like, and like sadly that was part of it. Like for a while, like,
Yeah.
I work for a healthcare technology company, and that was like part of who I was. And I so wish that I had gotten the message as a young person to instead just like, it's okay to just have a job that pays the bills, and it doesn't have to define you, and you can define yourself by the things you do outside of that job.
Yes, it doesn't have
And
to be the
that
thing
can
you
be
talk
what's
about. Yes,
right.
exactly.
Like, call that success, rather than the only type of achievement or success you can have is if you are climbing a corporate ladder.
Yeah,
Or
I went through
making
that a
more money.
bit because when I first moved here, I worked for a couple studios. And, you know, when someone says like, oh, what do you do? Where do you work? And I can, you know, I would be able to say like, oh, I work in marketing at DreamWorks. I work in marketing at Paramount. Like people are like everyone's heard of the studios. It's a thing,
Mhm.
like not just within Los Angeles. It's like worldwide. And, you know, those were assistant/coordinator jobs. They certainly weren't the sexiest, coolest jobs I ever had. But also in some ways it is. Like working in the studio is very cool. And so when I didn't have those jobs anymore, it was like, oh my gosh, I just say my day job is just a thing that sounds like a job. Like it's not
Right.
going to impress anyone. And at a certain point I was like, but that's not why you do this.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't why you
Exactly.
even had the studio job. It was because you love, like, if you're going to work in marketing as a day job, entertainment's more interesting and that's why you do it. Like it has
Mhm.
nothing to, so, but I do think that's a journey a lot of us have to go through.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully we're turning around and telling the younger generation what we've learned, because I know the generation ahead of me didn't say jack shit about that. So
Oh my God, absolutely
God love 'em.
not. No, I try to actually be a big advocate for talking about having a day job and that it's a normal part of a lot of creatives' lives. And also there's a lot of benefits for it. Like literal benefits, and also just the comfort of the paycheck hitting your account every 2 weeks, no matter what you sold, no matter what you haven't sold. I find deeply comforting. And I know it's not, some people, you know, would rather do the hustle, but have the time, the space to explore whatever. Great. Good for you. That's not for
Yeah.
me. And, you know, I've been in positions. I was on a panel a few years ago, and at the Q&A portion from the audience, a man was like, oh, when did you all become real writers and get to quit your day jobs? And I was like, sir, I still have a day job. Do you think I'm a real writer? And the whole crowd was like, yeah, because obviously at this point I just want to like tear down this man. But I thought it was a great, I could have just been like, oh, I sold my first book in this year and like let it, but I was like, no, I think it's actually important to be up here saying like, this is what a writer with a day job looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huge misunderstanding on behalf of a lot of people that once you have a published book, just a single published
One
book,
published book. Yeah.
now you're a full-time writer. That's all it
Yep.
takes. Well, okay, so that was a good way. We've circled back to writing. So what is important to you about writing LGBTQ plus characters? Since this is Queers and Quills, why does that matter to you?
Well, you know, I have so many different versions of the answer to this. I think honestly, the most honest and easiest one is just I write better queer characters as a queer person. And I feel initially I felt very lucky I even got to do it. When I started writing YA, there's so few books with queer characters, and they were often a side character or some great tragedy. And it was so frustrating to see that. And then obviously people started breaking through with happier stories, with stories where queer characters got to be the leads and got to like have victories. It didn't have to like go through some great hardship to get there. So I feel very lucky that I felt part of, you know, not the first part of that wave, but definitely within there, of just getting these happier stories out there, because all the stories they just for a while felt so depressing, or very like a very special episode. Like, well, now that we know queer people are people, we shouldn't bully them. Really? That's a
very
baseline,
special
I think.
episode. It's a great way to put that.
And it was just exciting to start to get to see books that were just like 100% happy, and or that there was no book is going to be 100% happy. But when the sad parts were coming from like being a person who's dumb with your feelings or with communication, or, you know, having a crush on someone that feels out of your league, like those kind of like things when you're 16, I feel like the end of the world, and not like literal horrible things. Because I felt like straight kids in YA romance were like getting to just like have shenanigans. And like, meanwhile, the queer kids were like, well, we got kicked out of our houses, but we did get to kiss once. I'm like, what if it was just kissing and no one was kicked out of their house? So that just felt like almost like I was getting away with something. And then I think all readers were so ready for this. And I mean, I think it's one reason that, you know, like Love, Simon was so big. Like people were just like, we want stories about queer kids that are just like really triumphant and joyful. And like the angst is so much less. So that is where I started. And I think at some point I thought like, oh, I might write a queer book again. And then based on how much I loved writing that book and how natural it felt to like finally get to like be a queer person writing queer characters and not just like a queer side character or, you know, something in the background, but like the main story. And then also to have the reception be so warm and loving and to see other people feel represented. It was like, oh, I was doing this to feel represented. And then I was having readers feel represented from it. It was just a wonderful sort of full circle that at that point I was like, well, then that's what I'm going to do.
Right. Very affirming.
Yeah. And then I also like, I just literally felt like my writing was getting better because I was able to center, you know, amazing that it's like, oh, I get to write queer characters as a queer person. It's going to go more easily in some ways. But yeah, I think it was just exactly what I needed to do in so many ways. And once I started, I was just not going to stop. Yeah. But I think it's also just good for, I don't know, I used to really think a lot about how if the only queer characters you were encountering in books were going through hard things and tragedies. Like, if you're someone who didn't yet have a queer community or were struggling in some way yourself, it could really feel like doom and gloom.
Yeah. Well, and the problem with so many of those books is that they didn't offer a way out. I mean, there's certainly many of us who in our younger years felt despair or unlovable or afraid of or afraid of the way our parents, friends, family would react to us if we were honest with them. And so you carry a lot of trauma through those experiences. There's no doubt like that and if you want to write a book without that, God bless. But also if it's there, it's real.
Exactly.
It's totally real. But I would like to read a book where, like I have come in my life, you come out the other side. You know, you go through the hard times, but you realize by the end that like, it's okay. Even if that means removing some people from your life or having to leave the place you grew up, like sometimes we have to take matters into our own hands, but there is a strength that can come from being queer that is beautiful. There's a bravery that can come from being queer that's beautiful. So yeah, it's not just the sad queer person existing in their circumstances. Like, no, when we feel uncomfortable, we get the fuck out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think like it leads you to find community and it leads the community to be supportive in a way that you maybe didn't know before that you could rely on. And I think there's a lot of I also think it's what, you know, I was a teen in the mid-90s. I was not seeing really models of like a happy queer adulthood. That wasn't a thing present for me. Anything on television or in film was definitely not a
I think it was still too stigmatized from the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for a lot of us who are Gen X, the first time you heard of gay people was right next to AIDS. So it definitely carried there was so much stigma. There was so much, you know, fear mongering. And there was also just a lot of like people didn't talk about it. So I think it's also different when you're writing today and writing younger characters. Even just, you know, my adult characters who were younger than me. It's like, not everyone, you know, people who grew up even 5-10 years later than me had more, you know, I was talking to someone and they're like, all we had in high school was Will and Grace. And I'm like, it's adorable. You think I'm young enough that I had Will and Grace in high school. But I did not. But yeah, I'm like, still, that is more than anyone my age had. And that's freaking rad for you. Like, am I saying that's the best portrayal of like queer life? No. But like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine if like every week when I was like 15, I got to see like gay people just being happy on national television. Right. It would have been awesome.
Even fake gay people.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like that, yeah. Because it did help. It helped people understand. I mean, my own, I'm not calling her a fake gay person, but like my own grandmother, when I came out, was like, well, Ellen is a lovely person.
It really,
She
I
had her
do
talk
think
show. She's
it made
lovely. I
people
was
feel
like, yes,
comforted.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, grandma. Yes, that's a nice, normal gay person. And now same. Like,
Yes. Yes.
so yeah, that representation matters. If somebody's coming to your writing for the first time and you wanted them to see the best representation of who you are as a writer, which book would you point them to?
I would say, feel free to start with For Her Consideration, which is my first adult romance. I hate the phrase adult romance. It's just, I feel like all former YA writers feel the need to like differentiate. And, no one who, if you didn't write YA, you just say it's my romance novel. We're all like adult
Right.
romance. But I'm really proud of that book. It was really fun to sort of get to have a little bit of freedom writing about adults, writing people with jobs and like longer histories. And I didn't really have to worry about what anyone's parents did or where they were. That was freeing. And I will say my books for adults are technically a series, but they're all standalones. But For Her Consideration is the first one. And it's a celebrity normal person romance. I know a lot of people love those. I love those. So I definitely encourage people to pick up that one. But a lot of people have been really responding to my newest book, On Her Terms, which is technically the third in the series. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I really feel like check out the Out in Hollywood series. If there's one that you were drawn to, go for it. I feel like that's a good starting point for me. A lot of readers came to me through my YA novel, The Summer of Jordi Perez and the Best Burger in Los Angeles, which was the first queer novel I wrote. All the books I wrote were queer because I wrote them, but it's the first one that had a queer storyline and main characters.
Fair point.
And I know that it's a teen novel, but it's one of those that I just think resonated for a lot of people. So basically, I know it feels like I'm saying any of my books, but yeah, I'd say For Consideration or Summer of Jordi Perez.
Awesome.
Or whatever your library or bookstore has. You're probably going to be happy.
Oh, such a good point. If you're a library user, just look me up and whatever they have available.
Yeah, whatever they've got, it's going to be fine.
All right. Well, I've also invited you here to play a game. Are you ready for that?
Sure.
Okay, so the rules of the game are simple. I have a deck of cards, and on each card is a question. The questions aim to learn more about you as a person, so some are biographical, some are hypothetical, some are just plain silly, but I will not be picking which questions you're going to answer. Fate will do that for us.
Sure.
I'm going to deal 3 cards every round. You choose one. Whatever card you pick, you are agreeing to answer, with a couple of caveats. So if a question comes along that you don't want to answer, you have 2 opportunities to switch things up. You can turn the tables on me one time, forcing me to answer the question, or you can also discard a personal question in favor of answering a bookish question from the white deck. But then you only get dealt 1 card, and you have to answer that question.
Okay.
Ready?
Let's go.
Here we go.
I hope they're all about moderating.
We'll see. I haven't had one yet, but I didn't go through the whole deck just to see what the questions were. So, card 1,
Wait,
card 2, or card 3.
Questions in the deck?
No, I bought a deck of cards with questions on them. You're giving me away. No, I didn't do that. All right, card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 2.
All right. What slogan or jingle got stuck in your head forever?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I have so many that I can't think of anything at the moment. I do feel like I get the Men's Warehouse. You're going to like the way you look stuck in your, because it feels like you're insulting someone.
It's
aggressive. Like a
aggressive.
threat. It's aggressive. Yeah. I think about it often.
You're going to like the way you look, or else.
Or I will murder you. Why? It's also, is that just like manhood in America? Just like a vague threat, even when clothing's involved? Like clothing should just be a great part of your life, not violent.
Mm-hmm. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
1. All
right. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Oh, wow. I don't know. Is it okay? Whatever. I think my writing career, having written books I really love, feels great.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
3.
Do you have a birthmark?
No. But I don't think you can see it anymore. I had a scar on my head growing up. No, it's like basically gone. Because like when I was a little kid, I was goofing off and I fell on a glass table, like a glass coffee table, because in the 70s and 80s, people were just like put glass furniture
Why
everywhere.
were those ever a thing?
Sure, we have small children and we have glass tables that are at a low angle where they could fall into them.
Yeah.
But I had that scar was like a big part of like, I feel like my self-image when I was young. Even though I always had bangs, I always was like, I knew it was lurking.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically gone at this point.
Makes total sense. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
3.
Which body part do you wish you could detach, and why?
I want to detach any of my body parts. It's real weird. I don't know. I mean, you know what? No offense to anyone who does, but like, I'm good. It's fine. I'm in my 40s. I'm glad everything's still basically working great. I mean, I did get my gallbladder removed. Wait, I do. Okay. So I had to get my gallbladder removed at some point. And I did feel like while they were in there, they should just take your appendix because like nothing's going to go good with it. So yeah, my appendix, I would like to detach it just for.
Good answer.
It would be nice to do it recreationally and not in a panic.
Right. Vestigial organs. Say goodbye.
Yeah. Why?
Card 1, card 2, or card 3? What book belongs on everyone's shelf?
Oh, you know, I go back and forth. I have a lot of things that I think are that everyone should read.
The Bible.
But,
The Bible. Is that
the
what
Bible?
you
That's it. I like in this version. It's like whatever book I pick, they're gonna like put in every like hotel bedside table. You know, a book I come back to a lot, time and time again, is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, which I think is about writing art at the end of the world and why it still matters and why, as the book says, survival is insufficient. And I think anyone in 2025 who wants to tell stories about love and joy and happy endings, I think it's something that will really resonate with you.
Great answer. I love that. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
2.
What characteristic are you most known for?
Oh, I just think being really loud. But like,
that'll do it.
Complimentary mostly, but yeah.
Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
2.
If there was a sandwich named after you, what would be on it?
Oh my God. I've thought of this before. Do you know what sandwich I really like is like a Thanksgiving style sandwich where it's like the turkey and the dressing and the cranberry sauce, little gravy as the condiment. Now, I don't know why they would then just name that after me, but I would like it.
Because that's the way the game works.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you should invent a sandwich, you know, based on like all the things. I do feel like I like making a really good grilled cheese because it feels, I don't know. I feel like growing up, I ate a lot of burned grilled cheeses because my mom is impatient and I like to make one in front of her and just be like low and slow. How you get it done.
What kind of bread?
Oh, like the whitest white bread for a girl. Like I grew up in St. Louis, born in the 70s. Like I was a Wonder Bread, whatever was available at Bunny Bread, I feel was often at the supermarket. Which I think is like Bimbo here, maybe. It's not the same. I just mean it's a thing you see a lot that you take for granted as a normal name. And then you become an adult and you say Bunny Bread out loud for the first time. And you're like, wait a minute.
What the hell is that? And it's barely bread. Really, that's what they should call it. Barely bread.
Yeah, it's just sugar that has a pleasing texture. And you know what? Yeah. What's wrong with that? I like sugar. I like pleasing textures.
I love it. Toss some turkey and stuffing and everything in between it.
Oh my God, yes.
I think we have time for a couple more. So card 1, card 2, or card 3?
1.
What is your greatest regret?
Oh my God. I actually really try to not live with regrets because I think it's a bad way to go through life because you can't do anything about them. But I will say I had a really shitty job once where they're like, don't worry, you can work from home. And then they were like, never mind, you can't work from home. And I learned, get it in your contract.
There you go.
But I try not to live with like life regrets. Like just go to therapy and talk it out. You know what I mean?
Right. And regret is such a tricky word but like that's a great example of like a situation from which you learned.
Exactly. You
wouldn't want to repeat it. So yeah.
Yes.
That's good. All right. Last round. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 3.
Do you have a favorite coffee mug? And if so, what's on it or what makes it your favorite?
Well, I have this, which is, this is so boring. It's just literally a Starbucks branded like thermos, but I get an iced espresso every morning and this thing keeps it so cold. It keeps the ice. And then also this is not just an ad for you can't even get this mug anymore. Sorry. But the thing I like about it has this like locking thing on the top when you spin it. And so I'm not going to demonstrate, but you could turn this upside down and it won't spill. So it's a
Nice.
really good one that I take in the morning that I can like throw under my arm or in my tote bag on the way up the stairs at work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, functionality is a great reason to love something.
Yeah, exactly. I just wish it was like something like, oh, a small local artisan made this. It's like, no, it's a Starbucks branded, whatever. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, who's to say you don't have those elsewhere? But
I do have so many nicer things, but it's like, this is my day to, like, I'm sorry, someone make one that makes me this happy. I don't know what to say.
Right. Yeah. You know what? But an artist made that too. Even though it was mass produced,
you know
somewhere
what? That's true.
An engineer and an artist got together and said, this is going to be the color, this is going to be the form. Some
yeah,
very
it is like,
people
it's nice
that.
to hold. It has a good texture. So yes, I will give that person that. Sorry to that person.
Sorry to that person. Oh, Amy, this has been a delight. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was great. I was very scared of all the cards, and they were all fantastic.
Yeah, they're not too scary, but there are some in there. So you had a really good mix of like even keeled, a little bit silly, a little bit personal. There are certainly ones that dive deeper. So, but,
in my head, they were all going to be the kind of things like my therapist asked me, so I was like, okay, let's go.
Here we go. Queers and Quills, the therapy podcast. But thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you are already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and to Amy at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram so you can see all the fun we're having this year and get updates about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.